us off in prayer?
Sure.
Thank you, girl. All right, go ahead.
Awesome. Heavenly Father, thank you once again for just a beautiful day and a time that the internet works. Lord, you're here. You prevail. You speak in so many ways. And what an awesome opportunity to come together as a group of women and maybe some men. I don't know who's on the line, but just to talk about you. And where two or more are gathered, you are here. It's just so exciting to have you in our presence. And Lord, we just invite you again into this conversation. Would you stir our hearts and steer our words and help us to elevate you and give you the glory that you deserve? And Lord, I just actually want to pray for Perry Noble. What an amazing story that he had. And Lord, you just speak to us so many ways that we are all about community. And that's what you call us to do, is to live in community. And Lord, I just pray that his fear and doubt and voyage into isolation not become a truth for any one of us, that we can learn from this, we can grow from this, and those sprouts will take heed in our hearts, and we will continue to walk in a path that sanctifies ourselves and you at the same time. And Lord, I just pray for the leader, for Kimberly, as she steers this conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, girl. Well, it's obviously a really small group, guys. So I know some people are at work, but if anyone just wants to unmute themselves to talk, please do, because I don't want it just to be me talking. But that being said, how did you guys like the call? Having someone different. It was, for me, I really enjoyed his humor. So that's something that I really liked about it. I, again, took lots of great notes that we can talk about, but did you guys enjoy it, or was it hard, listening to someone new?
I'll unmute. I'm sorry. I just took a bite of chicken.
I don't care, girl. Everyone unmute. Walk away.
I love hearing different voices and different perspectives and people. It's kind of like with Beachbody coaches, right? You might have a client that identifies with you that would never identify with me, and vice versa. And I can see why they're friends. They have so many similarities and just kind of their passion and their purpose behind things. But I loved hearing that. And I loved hearing just the rawness of his story. I didn't realize how it was going to end towards the end. And I was literally crying. I'm in a parking lot about to go in and get donuts for our school class. I'm sure people were like, who's the crazy freak? Just a donut.
Yeah. Yeah, he threw, at the end, I wasn't expecting any of that as well. So that was, I don't want to say refreshing in a good way, but it really showed you how we're all human, yet we're all welcome, and you get to be welcome every day. And I feel like that is the same way with this business. You're always welcome. People, have things come up, life comes up, and we all deal with life in different ways, whether that's a move or having a baby or, having relationship issues. You'll see people back off. And I feel like if you always keep the door open, you have no idea what that can do for your tribe and your team. You just, on my team, and I don't know where I heard this or read this. You guys know we do so much PD. Sometimes you're like, I have no idea where I heard that, but I didn't make it up. But on our team a lot, we teach how a person has to be at the 12 o'clock, they have to be ready. And oftentimes when you're sending an invite or inviting someone to church or whatever it is that you're reaching out to, you catch them and they're 12:05, 1 o'clock, you just missed it. And it's going to take a good maybe year to get back to their 12 o'clock. But the key is you have to be with them that whole time. Otherwise, someone's going to swoop right in at 11:59 and they're going to be ready. And you want to be the person that they're ready with. So that's the importance of follow-up and all of those things. But it's the same with, bringing people to Jesus. Some people are just not at their 12 o'clock. And it's going to, some clocks run slower than others too. So you never know when it's going to get there. But I I wrote down, like, when I watch these, I take a ton of notes, so it takes me forever to watch them because I find myself like rewinding, pausing, writing down different verses, looking them up, those sorts of things. So, but I did write what he started with, and I was going to read it for you guys all again if you didn't write it down, because I thought it was fabulous. He said, when God begins to give you a vision, he often makes a window through a person he puts in your life. This person becomes a window through which you see some of your own potential. Through their example, encouragement, wisdom, and even weaknesses, you get a glimpse of what God can do through you. And for me, that person is Summer. Like, not trying to blow smoke here, but, you know, Summer was that person for me. She was the person that I saw all of her accomplishments and strengths and weaknesses, because she puts it all out there. Like, she tells the story, and she's done so more and more over the years. You know, I've been coaching almost 4 years, and I've known Summer through my computer for 4 years, because I started as a challenger 4 years ago this month. And everyone shared her videos. Like, I remember her telling me to learn my tens and like what I would eat on the weekends, and eat egg whites at night, and shave my shake. Like, I started to do all these things, and I would watch this girl that I had no idea, and I wasn't a coach, had not even thought about being a coach, didn't know what she really did. I just thought she was someone they shared the videos. And I started to really see the potential in myself as a challenger first. So I had no idea, you know, that what it would lead to her being such a business mentor for me. And when he said that, like, I kind of got chills, because she was that window for me. She opened up that potential. And how exciting that we guys can now be that for someone else.
Lad, this is Tony. Can I help you?
Oh, no, you can't help me.
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on, let me mute her. Manage participants. Let's see.
I'm already in Cerner.
I got Tony muted. Okay. So anyways, it's, you know, that's part of my vision and my purpose is, you know, I just wrote a post on Facebook today on my page talking about passion, and, like, you know, a lot of people are waiting to, like, be passionate about something. And when you're thinking about multi-level marketing, like, who's really passionate about, like, candles or skincare? Or, like, I mean, who wakes up and is like, oh my God, I'm so passionate about my skincare today? Like, that's not what it is that you're necessarily have to be passionate about, because health and fitness is it healthy? Is it something I need to do? Does it make me better? Mom, friend, wife, all those things? Absolutely. But the passion really is the purpose behind it all. And the purpose is being that window for someone else. For me, like, is bringing someone into this business, one, to make them a happier person. But now that I get more and more into these calls with Girl Boss Redefined and the old spiritual coffee talk, like, the higher we have as an influence, whether that's with Beachbody or whatever influence you have in your community, that's just your opportunity to be the window to bring someone to Jesus. Like, that's powerful. So just the way he opened up with that and introducing him, I just loved everything about it. Does anyone want to share about that, or what they thought about it? Or I will make you. Anyone? All right. He said the quote, there's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. That's something that, you know, you'll see on a little flyer here or there, but it's so much more impactful when you, like, if a lot of times I'll write down these quotes, and you can have, you can have posts for days, and I'm sure Mary can attest to this. Like, you go to a Danny Johnson, like, I have posts for, like, months of things to talk about. But the key is not putting it on a flyer and just putting it out there. Like, it's writing, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And then you start to talk about, you know, there was a crack in me 4 years ago. Like, I felt broken because XYZ. Like, this is what was wrong with me. I was damaged. I was shattered. I was broken because of XYZ. But what that did is it allowed room for the light to come in, which is all of you, which is this team. Like, I just love seeing posts from this team, my coaches, my team, where they're like, you know, who knew I was in such a sad place, needing to lose 50, 60, 100 pounds, and they were going to bring me to this silly shake and silly workout and this team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I am not passionate about Brazilian butt lift, but I did it for 90 days and here I am. So it brought me to all of you guys. So I love that. But I think it was whenever I write down those quotes, I'm like, oh, people need to just not slap that quote up there, but take it as an opportunity to share your story with people. Which a lot of you guys are fabulous on that. I stalk most of you. So do everything with boldness. And then he went into the whole college football analogy, which I love. I'm a big college football watcher. So it was funny, you know, some of you were talking before you jumped on, like, if you enjoyed his humor, which I definitely did. Like, I thought it was really funny how he talked about the South, and I'm from the South, and talked about college football and all of that. So I thought that was funny. But I can see how someone, you know, people might not connect with that as well. So, and so that whole thing was, there's still time left on the clock. As long as you're alive, there's time left on the clock. The game isn't over yet. So like, and he said several times, if you're not dead, God's not done with you. Like, there's still stuff to do. So if you're not dead, there's still things to do. So as low as we feel like we get, like, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to have a solid foundation to build on, is what I like to think about it as. Because sometimes I do feel like, okay, it can't get any worse. It can't get any worse. But it always seems to have a way of getting worse. But you have to get to that rock bottom where you hate it so much. I know we talk about this in Team Courage a lot, like where the hate comes from so much. And well, this came from these sermons, obviously. But you get to a place where you just hate, like, you hate crying in your closet, or you hate, you know, drowning in debt, or you hate, you know, suffering with anxiety or depression. You hate where your marriage is. You hate where your debt is. Like, I talked to several people today in conversations where they just don't hate it enough. And I'm getting more and more confident and comfortable saying that to people, because I think that's what they need to hear. I think that, you know, I applaud all of us for doing these calls and plugging into this kind of stuff, because yes, we have to meet people where they are, but I also think a lot of coaches are lacking that tough love. And I do not believe that this team is here just to give someone a shake in a workout, but is really here to change their mindset and the way that they look at their body, the way that they feel about themselves, and make them realize that, I mean, this is just not about food and a workout. Like, that's actually the easy part. Like, you eat this, you do this workout, right? The hard part is all the excuses and the baggage and the reasons why you can't do it, and digging into that, like, do you hate it enough to change, sort of thing. So
is that what Kimberly, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please interrupt.
This is like a slight detour from the sermon talk, but like, what's the language around that? Like, how are you, first of all, are you talking on the phone with these people, or are you chatting with them in Messenger? And like, how do you say that to them?
Yeah, so this happened in 2 conversations today, and it was through Messenger. And I don't, you know, I'm sure it's directly related to the fact that I was going to talk about this call today and listen to it yesterday. So it tends to be like on my mind. But, you know, when you start talking to someone about, oh, well, I am struggling, or I am stuck, and, you know, you ask the typical questions and the typical goals, and, you know, what's holding you back? Well, I don't have time, and all the excuses we hear all the time, right, guys? And I'll start with, you know, well, you know, we make time for the things that are important to us, right? Like, so, you know, we make time. If we make a hair appointment, we're not going to miss that. Like, I'll be there tomorrow. Don't worry. That's important. I made time for it. I put it down on the planner. It has to be a doctor's appointment, whatever it is. Like, it has to be that important. And I did say the hate thing today to 2 of these people. I was like, you have to hate where you are so much that you're willing to change. And I don't know if you hate it that much, or if you're, you know, kind of comfortable there. Like, it's kind of comfortable, like, hiding under sweaters, and it's kind of comfortable having this as a crutch, you know, like, it's what you've always known. So the idea of changing is scary, but I challenge you guys to dig in a little deeper with people like that, because I do not expect them to come back and say, you're right, let's do this. But I do expect them to really think about that, like, to go to bed thinking about that. And I want to say that also came to a head with me 4 years ago, when the person that was saying it to me was my husband, because I had been giving excuses for years about my weight and my unhappiness with my weight and anxiety and depression. And we were I will never forget this. We were laying in bed one night and I was again complaining and whatever, like I would, be good Monday through Thursday and then blow it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then start the process over again. So I was laying in bed, like complaining about it, and Matthew is he's Emerald Pearl, so he's very to the point. It comes off a little harsh sometimes, but he's Pearl, so he was doing it out of love. And he just said, stop talking about it and just do something about it. And it hurt. Like I went to bed crying that night, and I didn't even respond, because it finally clicked with me where I was like, he's right. Like just do something about it. So I think that our challengers sometimes, sometimes we don't know them that well. They have to know and like us and trust us, I know, before they're going to come in. But I feel like that being honest with people and kind of showing them what you're going to offer them builds that trust, where it's like, I'm not here just to have you buy a $200 all access pass and then see you later. Like, it's what I do love about the year-round challenge pack, though, is because I'm like, join me this year. Like, forget this 21 days BS. Like, do this with me in 2017. Like, let's do this, right?
What is that noise?
I don't know what that noise is. Hold on, let me mute them. I don't know who that was. Oh, no, here it is.
It was a phone call and they just left again. I've been using this hate thing since we learned about it, like in these videos and, on Summer's call and stuff, with people that are currently already on with me, like challengers and coaches. And like when I don't know what's flipped in me, but I think it's flipped in me. And so I'm like able to share it with others. So like, maybe that's the first step. Like we have to really analyze, like, are we getting to the place where we hate things enough, and then like start sharing that, like on Facebook and stuff. And then once it's changing in you, you can share with others, if that makes sense. So like I've been able to say, like, instead of like, you got to figure out what you hate, like I'm sharing mine. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
So then it's not so mean. Like it might, for you pearls, like it might not seem so mean when you're sharing it from you. Like I'm reading some of the chat, like Rebecca, Susan, like you can say, I got to the place where I'm so sick of this emotional eating thing that I just hate it so much that I hate it more than I love this Oreos. And, and they're like, oh, like you can share your story. But I just was looking back in my messenger, see if I could find it. But I kind of shared it as like, I don't know, I'm just going to read it. But the girl said, I didn't even say anything about hate. And she said, I used to be a size 6 and I hate being a 12. And then I said, okay, so do you hate being a size 12 more than you like going to McDonald's? Because she told me that she likes going to McDonald's. And it was just like, it was able to just like, so it wasn't mean, I wasn't like, what do you hate in your life? I wasn't like in her face, but she just was like, oh, and I said, when you get to the place where you hate that more than that, then you're ready. And she just wrote back and she goes, I'm 99% there, like it was. And I already feel like when she hasn't signed up yet, but like when she does, she's going to be so much more like ready, because she does.
Go girl. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I said she'll be all in. That's awesome.
Like when she's, and I think and even just with challengers, like not the fitness side, like they're like, my marriage is crap. And I say, well, you got to get surrounded. And I said, that's going to require you showing up on our team webinars and committing to personal development. Like, I don't know where this boldness has come this year, but like, I'm just like, I'm not BSing anymore. Like this is what you have to do. Like you have to get, and, I said, so if you're really ready, this is what you're going to have to do. If you really say that you hate it, like you say you do. And they're just like, oh, but they showed up on the webinar, and usually they don't because I just was like, well, we have this team call, but it's like, no, like, do you want to change your marriage? Well, then you got to start like really, I don't know. It's hard to get there, but I think when we do it ourselves, it's easier to explain it to others. I don't know if that makes sense.
When he said that, he said, do everything with boldness. So I love that you're like, I don't know where this boldness comes from. Like it comes from this, like it comes from surrounding yourself and listening to these things where you're like, I'm the same way where I might, I'm setting up my email funnel and all this stuff. People unsubscribe every day. And it's, what he was talking about. He's like, do you feel like, the enemy has you running up the scoreboard. He's always right behind you. He's always pulling you down. And then he goes back to, if you're not dead, God's not done with you. Like, it's just narrowing in your tribe and the people that you're supposed to work with. Like, you know, you can't get that specific tribe without being bold.
And I think it comes from sharing. Like, I think it's here somewhere, like just about the vulnerability, maybe the roof diamond thing or something. Like, if you're not being vulnerable with your team and like sharing where you're really at, like they're not going to go that deep too, you know? And so I think the deeper we go and continue to work on ourselves, the more, anyway. But back to this, I mean, I totally loved how it's like, if I feel like this is my purpose, like to share people, point them to Jesus, and I get to do it through Beachbody. And so it's like, that makes me freaking passionate, like to wake up, like I get the opportunity to, you know, invite someone to come and sit on a call like this and to listen to this and to, so, you know, it's just like, it's awesome. So anyway,
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So then he went into the his 4 points about Zechariah, and his humor was so funny to me when he was just like, you know, some pastors are like, I've read this 100 times. He's like, I've maybe read this 2 or 3 times. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. And he's like, most of y'all don't even know where it is in the Bible. Like, he was just really funny. But so it was accusation, and he really talked about the grace of God. Talked about, if it wasn't for his grace, we wouldn't be here to stand. When you get out of bed, and this went right with what you were saying, Jen. He said, when you get out of bed in the morning, do you say, good morning, Lord? Or do you say, good Lord, it's morning? And I have really embraced the attitude, you know, this year alone, of waking up and saying, good morning, Lord. Like, it's the first person I talk to, and thank him, and thank you for a wonderful night's sleep. Like, what you're saying about not Whole 30, but for me, Whole 30, like coming from a place of hate, like sharing with people, like I hated not being able to fall asleep at night or waking up and feeling yucky in the morning. And now I don't, because I did my Whole 30 and I feel better. And I knew that was going to come from it because I've done it before. But it came from a place of hate. Like, I hate feeling out of control with food. So I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to give it these 30 days, and I know I'll feel better. I know you will too if you do it too. Like, those are the things you have to share. Like, what do you hate feeling? But anyway, so waking up and just being grateful for a good night's sleep, being grateful that I get to get on a call like this with all of you ladies today, grateful that, you know, everyone in my house is back to school. We had some sickness bugs, but just waking up with a different attitude instead of like, oh, it's morning. Like, I have a million messages to probably respond to. Like, that's what I want. So why would I, you know, dread it, sort of thing. He said, okay. And then he said, and if anyone wants to talk about accusation more, anything that stood out for them, you know, please jump in, or anyone read the chat for me. So vindication was next. When being accused, the intimidation is to fight back. I really liked all this section on vindication. How he was talking about, you know, God doesn't like anyone messing with his kids. Like, you can imagine how you feel when someone's messing with your kids, and he feels the same way when Satan's messing with us. I have never thought about it like that. I don't think that thought's ever entered my mind. So that really made me stop and think. I have a question, if anyone wants to answer my question on this. He said, before God created you, he knew about the addiction. He knew about the affair. He knew about the abortion. He knew every sinful, stupid decision we were going to make. And he created us and made arrangements for the payments to be made. This is something that I hear back and forth in sermons, and I'm Catholic, which is very different setup. Mass is very different than these kind of sermons. I enjoy them both for different reasons. I learn from both of them, but this might be a heavy conversation, so I'm interested in what y'all want to say. But like, what are your opinions on that? Like, when you hear people say, or you hear sermons say, or you hear the Bible say that he knows everything that you're going to do before you do it, versus the idea that he gave us all free will to make our own decisions. So how would he know what we're going to do? That's something I ask myself. So I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are, or your questions, or if you've ever thought about that. you're going to have to answer Jen Yoder.
I can give you a good tool, Kimberly.
Okay.
Are you familiar with John Piper? Does that name ring a bell with you?
No.
Okay, so he's a modern theologian. Once you get past his very squeaky, funny voice, he has some really great, he has a red phone to God, I'll just say that. There's an app that's called Ask Pastor John.
Okay.
And it's free, and it's all of his podcasts. And I love to listen to these. This is weird. Like, I don't listen to much while I'm in the shower, but I'll listen to these because it just gets you thinking.
Okay.
But you can search by topic or episode, so you can put in predestination and hear what he has to say.
Okay.
And I would kind of defer to the line of thinking that Summer always says, until you consult this, like, we don't get an opinion. You know, the word is the word. So my personal, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian, Reformed theology, done some training, but God calls people, okay? So first of all, I think we have to back up and understand that he created the world. He gets to do whatever he wants. We are here to glorify him, which sounds so harsh if you're not a believer. That sounds really self-righteous and like, how could you say that? And how could you then say that everyone's not called? So I like to put that under the category of the mystery of God. And our human infinite brains can't possibly understand why some people are called to be believers and others are not. We'll never understand it. And if you spend your life trying to do that, you will just be so frustrated. But he calls those, and we glorify him. He works all things together for the good of those who are called. Okay, that's not everyone. Those are the ones that are called. And then if you read the scriptures about the predestination and the preordained, we do have free will to make a choice. He always provides an out. But he allows, I mean, you look at Job, you look at some of these characters that he allows, even in the very beginning in Genesis, he allows stuff to happen to these people. He doesn't cause it to happen. Some of their sin gets them into these crazy situations, but he allows it. He allows Satan to get into Job's business. There have been times in my life, I'm not going to share them here, but where I've done some stupid stuff. And I can tell you that he allowed the evil one to have his way in my brain for a while. And I knew what was going on. And I just had to work my way through it. And that's hard. But there's always a story in the suffering. You know, people say a mess in the message, but he's working something out that will ultimately glorify him. I walked through some stuff in the last 10 years that in the middle of it, you know, you hear people say, I would do it all over again. I would go through all that. I would lose my child. I would get my divorce. But when you're in it, you're like, well, no, my child's in the next room, so I can't be too loud. But like, you would, no way. I don't want to do, I would trade anything for this misery. This is awful. But once you come out on the other side and you see how God drew you in, God protected you, stuff that you didn't even know that was going on. We've talked about that on one of these calls, like all the stuff that's happening around you, we're all focused on ourselves. Anyways, all that works for the good. And so the whole, yeah, he knows what's going to happen. He knows the outcome. He knows the decision you're going to make. You get to make it. He's going to allow you to walk in your sin. But he also calls us to repent and walk away. So there's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. And Susan, you're going to read what was in the devotional this morning?
Yeah, so I got my kids, it's called the Ultimate Boys Book of Devotion. So we read it every morning when they're eating breakfast.
You get that.
And I just got it off Amazon. My aunt recommended it. But it says, checking your motives. The Lord searches every heart and understands every motive behind the thoughts. And it was 1 Chronicles 28:9. Said, God hears every word you speak. He knows every thought you think. And get this, he knows the motives behind every thought you think. God shines a light into your heart, checking out what motivates you, what makes you do what you do. You can't hide anything from him. No wonder King David said, before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely. Psalms 139:4. You bet God does. He knew what you were doing, what you were going to say before you even thought it. At the end of your life, when you stand before the judgment seat of Christ, you'll be rewarded for the good you've done, and all the garbage will be burned away. At that time, you'll be asked to give an account an account to God for every thoughtless word you've said. Jesus said that if you even think of sinning, it's as if you've already done the deed. And then it says, what effects does it have on you to know that God knows the motives behind your action? Don't let it worry you. Sure, you should have a healthy respect for God, but more than anything, double check your motives. Ask God to forgive you when you slip up. He loves you and He's always on your side. God knows absolutely everything you do, say, think, or think about thinking. That's a good reason to do good, speak good, and even think good.
Yeah, how can you not be a little worried reading that, right?
Yeah.
Double check all your motives. Like, I mean, that's a gut check for me, in all honesty. Like, sometimes my motives are selfish, or my motives are financial, or my motives are, and it's exactly what you said. Like, it might come out of your mouth like, yeah, I want to do this for my team, but God knows if that's the truth or not. Like, do you really? Is it really for your team, or is it really for you? Like, he knows where your motives are. So, I'm definitely going to look that guy up, because when he started talking about all of this, that's something that I think about a lot, like, and read a lot of different things about. So I know there's, like you said, lots of opinions, but it comes down to the word and finding the interpretation, I suppose. So based on all of that, though, that we just said, though, he then said, the next time the enemy reminds you of your past, remind him of your future and who wins in the end. And your past does not determine your future. That's something that we hear a lot at Danny Johnson too. Like, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter where you are now. It doesn't matter the mistakes that you have made. Because I certainly have plenty of stories too, Stephanie, that, I'm not proud of, and things that, looking in the moment or looking back, I'm kind of like, oh, I would have done that differently. But again, we don't know all the things going around us. And there's a lot of mistakes that I made that I think brought me to this team, that brought me to saying yes to doing a challenge pack, that then brought me yes to meeting all of you. Like, there's certain decisions I made that I think brought me to that point, as crazy as that sounds. I'm sure you all have stories like that as well. But, and there was something I was going to say. I lost my train. Oh, something Stephanie said that I had to explain to me in a great way years ago, maybe talking with kids going through First Communion or something like that. But the infinite dimensions where you'll just never understand it, and you can't wrap your mind around and understand God or God's will, or knowing everything, or taking care of all these people, or calling certain people, because, I had it best explained, like, we live in a 3-dimension world, and he lives in infinity dimension. Like, you cannot wrap your mind around that. It's hard enough to wrap your mind around, like, 4D movies when you go in there and the smoke is blowing on you, and this, like, that's even kind of confusing because it's not real life. And or it is real life, but it's just so different than what we're used to, I guess. So I loved when it was explained to me, is like, it's infinite dimensions. Don't try to sit up at night figuring it out, because you're not going to. We don't live in a infinite dimensional world. We live in our own little 3D, 4D world. So that's so true. So, okay. So number 3 was, yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, when I had written down about when he talks about it later, but maybe right around this part, he talks about his dent in his truck. Remember that part? And he was talking about how don't identify more with the dent in your life than with the death that was covered to pay it all. Yeah. And I think that would be my response to, like, what you're talking about, is there's so much that we're not going to know, and denominations are going to argue, and they have for thousands of years. And, like, right now is probably not the time and the place to, like, we're not going to all agree because we all come from different backgrounds. But the main thing is that Jesus died for it all, like, on the cross, and he knew about every bit of it, and it's all covered, and I think that that's the biggest part, that so often we get caught up, well, I did this, I got a divorce, I did this, and that pastor, did you guys talk at the beginning about him? I don't know if you looked him up, because I did, because I'm curious. Like, about his rehab and stuff like that.
No, we just talked about briefly that we didn't expect it, like, to end that way, because I hadn't looked him up. So I was, like, kind of a little thrown off guard. But do you want to share what you learned?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just Googled him and stuff like that about his church, like this huge, fastest growing church ever in South Carolina and all this stuff. And he had to step down as a senior pastor because of alcohol abuse, like just in June. And so there's all these articles actually been written about him going back to Elevation because it's kind of his first time back speaking ever since June. And like, because he's not speaking at his church right now. And just, I don't know. I mean, I think we'll probably talk about it later, but the whole redemption thing, like he's not dead. Like, he could have had a, overdose or drunk or whatever and died and God was done, but he's not. He's still around. So there's like a purpose in his message. And I just love that about if you fall down with your kids, like you fell down, like too bad. The others don't fall down, like I love that. Like there's so much, like we can get so focused on the one bad thing we did in the past or we will do, like, with your kids, I'm so worried about the one thing they'll do. Like it's covered and we can just keep going forward. Like, God, how are you going to use this? And what do you want to use me today? I'm ready. And anyway.
Yeah. I don't know if it was posted in this group or if I saw it somewhere else, but someone posted a week or so ago that there's a reason that the letter I is in the middle of anxiety. And that I had never read that or seen that. I don't know if anyone else saw it. It might not have been this group. But wow, I was like, yeah, like anxiety stems from it being about you. Like it's all about you. So I thought about that when he talked about the dent in the car. Like you're making it all about the dent. And that's where anxiety stems from. But so that just popped in my head. But so the next part was, the third one was transformation. And this is where he talked about Joshua was dressed in filthy clothes and they changed his clothes and they changed the turban. And I mean, there was a long story in there, but which we all heard. And then he told the story about seeing his Aunt B change. So, which, all tied together. And my takeaway from that is when you see people changing, you can take the side of accusation or the side of positive transformation. So you're either an accuser or you embrace the transformation. And I thought this hit hard and related to all of us and what we do in our business, because you have so many accusers in this business that want to see you fail, that don't want to see you succeed, that want to attack you. And even in their head, they might be saying like, that's not it. Like they don't see the jealousy or they don't see what it is. But when it comes out with their tongue, I guarantee you that's what it is. I had a coach that received kind of an ugly message from a, genuine, nice invite to coaching. And she was kind of attacked for it. And I came right to this. I was like, she's just someone that's accusing with the negative because they don't like seeing change in someone else. They don't like seeing other people go for it when they're not going for it. And that's from Jen Sincero out of You Are a Badass. That was one of my favorite parts where she's like, people genuinely don't like seeing other people go for it when they don't have the guts to go for it themselves. And so it turns into an accusation of, I don't want to do that. Hers was like, I'm not going to charge people to help them with advice. And I'm like, clearly that's not what we do. But, like just all these accusations of what she was doing as a coach. And it made me sad for her heart, obviously. But instead of someone that, you send a message to some people and it might not be for them, but I have so many people write me back and, say it's not for them and follow it up by saying, but I love your post. Like, I love your inspiration. I love following you. And you know what? That's my purpose then. That's my purpose, is to, inspire them and make them happy. My purpose is not necessarily to get them on my team. Like there's a select group of people that need to be on this team. And it isn't for everyone. Do we know until we ask almost everyone? No, like you have to get it out there and kind of start the filtering process. But when you get a message back like that, I thought of Summer too, and what she talked about last week, where she had that attacking message on her and someone cussing her out, and how she turned it around by meeting them where they were and seeing how that person could help them. And like, she really turned it around in an awesome way where I don't know that I would have been that great about it. But you see, so when you see people changing, you have the chance to come at them as an accusation or a transformation, a positive transformation. So I love that. and I love that he said, the people that followed Jesus were nothing like Jesus, and the people that Jesus loved were nothing like him. I love that. And then this is when he talked about scolding a baby for like not walking fast enough or not doing it right. And but churches for years scold people for imperfections. And I mean, like you said, we're not going to get into denominations, but the Catholic Church is really good about making you feel guilty about a variety of things that I have done wrong in my life and continue to do wrong in my life. But to his point, we need to celebrate each step forward, the progress that we're making. I'm not going to show up to Sunday tomorrow and be, perfect. I'm just not. Like it's, I ask for, forgiveness daily for things that I've done years and years ago. And Danny Johnson has been a big, huge part of my healing process personally, just kind of like the exercise of forgiveness and forgiving others. And it's not a one-time thing. You don't get to say, I forgive you. And, then you wish them no ill will, like ever. Like if you have someone that you need to forgive, this is my test, and you're like, oh, I've forgiven them, I've let it go. But when you hear their name and like, you just kind of like, you're just like, that's not forgiveness. Like you haven't forgiven that person. Or if, you think about something that you want to forgive yourself for and it still makes you a little uncomfortable and queasy, you really, truly haven't forgiven yourself for it. And it's just, it can take years, I'm sure, for some of these things or some of the people that have wronged you, or it's such a process, but it's something that I try to do daily when I talk with God. Let's see. Then he just talked about rising and falling, getting back up. There's still time in the game, all of those things. The Proverbs 24:16. For through the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. Okay, so, and then the last was celebration. And this was identify more with the dent in your life from Jesus, or with the life more than Jesus, the sacrifice he made for all the dents in your life. So that's when we talked about what Jen was talking about. That's how he finished it up. And then he obviously shared about himself. And the last thing, well, I wrote a couple things last, but the last big point I wrote down was we have a God that calls the unqualified and qualifies those he called. And I thought that was a great way to end it, because, a lot of us are on this team where health and fitness wasn't our calling or wasn't our passion or isn't, but it goes back to what we said in the beginning. Like it's here. We're in this vehicle, we're in this vessel for a different purpose. And, for Jen, that might be like helping people with their marriages and, spice it up and heal marriages. And, I think in all of us in some capacity are here to bring people to Jesus. I do believe that. I don't think he'd be on the call otherwise, honestly. I don't think he would have been put on this particular team otherwise. I can't imagine there's a lot of teams that do the kind of things that Summer does for us. I would be shocked. So I know that I was put on this team for a reason. And even though I'm, I think I'm like 5 or 6 levels down from Summer, she was still put in my life for a reason. Like she opened the window. She was the encourager for me to like eat my egg whites and not eat anything but my 8s, 9s, and 10s on the weekends. Like she was my person that started it off that way, So, and I wrote, open up the window and reveal God's grace. So it wasn't a complete thought. It was just the last thing I wrote, but, just the whole series of, shooting out the window that we have. And this is our window, guys. Beachbody is our window. Like it's a great opportunity to grow our influence and I don't care if your influence is with a group of 5 people or a group of 50 people or a group of 100 people. Like he wants to put people in a place of influence. He wants you to rise up. He wants you to be known in your circle or to grow a team, to do all of those things, because the people with the influence have the power to spread his name faster. They have the power to speak and them to listen. So your social media can be your influence. Like when you grow something like that, like you have to look at those little things as your bigger purpose. So even though some days it's like, I don't know what to post, I don't know what to talk about live, I have nothing, I'm empty, I'm boring, I'm tapped out, you have to dig into, but your purpose is to grow an influence and to grow a tribe and to attract people to things like this, right? So I love the whole window series. I'm not sure how much longer it lasts, but anyone else want to share anything or anything that stood out to them or questions that they have before we wrap it up?
Hey, I don't know how many of you do the She Works His Way app, but yesterday's devotion was about competence and dependence. And the first quote that Michelle Myers put in there was, "Ego limits our eternal effectiveness." And I was like, Shazam, that's like serious. And she goes on to write later in the thing, but the most dangerous of all, what we used to be desperate for God to show up and do in us, we start to believe we can do on our own. And this whole devotion is about the fact that as you're growing and you build competence and you gain more followers and you have more influence and you get better at it and you get a little bit cocky and the ego starts to kick in. And it's that constant, you've said it too, like Summer's always talking to us about like humble. Like you got to be a humble server. It's the She Works His Way app. I think it's like $2.99 from the App Store. Totally worth it. It's the great, this is my morning. So you go, you make your Energize, you drink your Energize, and in that 10 minutes you read through this and pray. But at the very end, they always have like questions to think about, and after a little prayer. And her question was, let's clearly examine our hearts today. Do you believe that anything you have is because of you? And I think that ties exactly, Kimberly, you just said all of that. Like if we start to get into that, we've done it. We have stuff to share. It's not because of us though. It's God working through us. So do you think any of your gifts, abilities, talents, positions, influence have to do with you? Let's allow God to break anything in us that's limiting our eternal effectiveness. Pray that he will do mighty things today. So I think even the people that feel like I've got nothing to post, nothing's going on in my life, you know what? Just pray that God would break you out of that bondage and that thinking, because he can be glorified in anything, whether it's that peanut butter and jelly sandwich or that, how you crush some T25 or whatever. But that's how you influence others. I love that.
Yeah, it's absolutely in the little things that, I don't know how many of you guys if you've ever read The Circle Maker or the series. There's a couple of different ones in it, but I love all of those. And he talks about, so I commented, I think Layla wrote something in the group last week and I commented on it from The Circle Maker. And I have a little board, a plaque in my room that Summer actually gave me for a birthday a couple years ago. And it's 2 prayers from The Circle Maker. And it's, Lord, complicate my life, and Lord, surprise me. And they don't necessarily have to go together, but I have them together on a board. But it takes some balls to wake up and ask God to complicate your life. I'm going to tell you that. Like, not everyone's ready for that. And some days I'm not ready to say it out loud. But when you offer God in to complicate your life, he is obviously going to give you plenty to post about if you have the guts to share it all. But he can't give you this huge blessing without going through some complications and like the struggles like that we see, like bigger level, bigger devil. I have some struggles where I am with my team, and then I look at Summer and I'm like, I have no idea what I have to complain about. Like I have, these couple hundred people to get under control, and she's got like 20,000 or however many she has, like who knows, right? So so I think of it that way when I'm like, I'm not asking for a team of 10,000, but I'm asking for you to complicate my life. And I'm pretty sure if you gave me a team of 10,000, that would do the trick. So you kind of do it in that kind of way. And to surprise me. And, it is in The Circle Maker too, though, where he says, God wants to bless you guys. He wants to bless all of us with really, really big things, because too many people don't glorify him for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich or for the nice weather or for this and that, because they think it's just little and that's the way life works and it's coincidental, or they want to say it's the universe or whatever they want to say. But when you pray circles about something big, like having being able to build, 10 houses in Nicaragua, if you were to pray circles around that, when it happens, you have no choice but to thank God for it, because he's the one who did it. And a lot of people don't do it unless it's that really big thing. So for that reason, he wants to give you big things, because he wants you to give him credit. He wants you to share, like, God did this for me. So I always get, happy and excited when someone gets an Oscar and thanks God. I'm like, thank you. Like, so many people don't do that, but God put you in this place. God put you in that movie. God gave you the gifts that he gave you, and good for you for thanking him for it. Now, does that just slide off some people's tongues? Absolutely. But that goes back to what Stephanie or Susan was saying about, he knows your motives. He knows why you're saying something. He knows if it's true or not. He knows if it's in your heart. So, yeah, I love that ego limits our total effectiveness. I wrote that down really big too. So, all right. Stephanie, Jen, someone want to end us in prayer? Thank you guys for joining me. I know, I knew we'd have a much smaller crowd, but I really appreciate the time, because I never like to miss these each week. They are the highlight of my week, truly. So thanks for being here with us. All right. Thank you, Susan. Jen, Stephanie. Okay, Jen's up.
Okay, I didn't know if she was doing it. No problem. I'll pray real quick. Dear God, we just thank you so much for this time, God, for this team. We know that it is not an accident at all, that each one of us are here, and each one of us have been placed together, knitted together. God, it's all in your plan, and you have so many more people to bring to us to impact their lives and their marriages and their families, and God, just to spread and do the greater works, just spread all over, Lord. And it's just so exciting. And I'm just so grateful. Sorry, guys. So grateful that we can have the freedom in this country to come together and talk about you and your word and your truth. And we just thank you for God, what you're doing in our lives, and what you're teaching us individually and as a group together. And yeah, God, I'm just thankful for this group, and that we can openly discuss. And we just pray that you would just use our lives, and it would all point back to you, Lord, because that's what it's all about. We love you so much. Amen.
Amen. All right, girls. Thank you. Y'all have a great week. See you soon.